Somebody said, "How are you?" Interestingly enough, like I'm doing a lot better now. I know I kind of answered this in the beginning, but whatever. Um, I am doing better, but my anxiety is pretty bad. Like, I know I've been having. I mean, it just like actually it's getting better, but I think like my anxiety has been kind of bad. So like I'm dealing with that, but at least I don't really feel as depressed right now. It like that's kind of lightening up a little bit, so that's great, but like the anxiety's kind of in here. That kind of lingers forever for me. Um but I'm starting to wonder if that just never goes away. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, well then what's the point of me complaining? You just manage and you move forward. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm sorry that I talk about it so much, but you guys are just my besties, so I can't help it. Somebody just said dream place to travel, which I'm not, I don't even, I'd go anywhere right now at this point. I'm going to say Paris because I just want to go to Paris right now. But this actually just led me to another thought, which is that I've been in LA for so long that I'm losing my mind. That's another reason for my mental health decline. I've been in LA for virtually 8 months straight. I've only left twice. And both trips were like 3 days and they were in my hometown, which doesn't even feel like vacation really. I cannot be in LA another day. I really want to go to Portland, Oregon for some reason. That's really like something I want to do. I might literally just go there by myself randomly just because I'm like, I just want to escape. I just think LA is just so, I just am sick of it. It's like, I've never been here for this long in a row. I just need to get out of here. But also, you know, I want to be thoughtful of the pandemic. So I don't know how that whole situation works, like whether or not you have to get tested before you go. But also it's like, I don't want to go on a trip by myself either. Like I think I do, but then if I did that, I would hate it. So I just need to find some people that would want to go with me. Somebody said, how do you know if you're ready for a relationship? I think I've answered this before, but the truth of it all is if you don't feel like you need one, you just want one. If you just are like, I don't need to be in a relationship, but if I was in one, it would be great, but I don't need to be in one. Check your level of desperateness. If you feel desperate for a relationship, you have a lot more work to do on yourself. But if you're like, you know what? I'm happy being single, but if somebody comes along, whatever. Or even for me, to this day, I've started my best relationship when I was in a place where I was like, I want to be single. Everybody always fucking says that too. They're always like, I got in the best relationship I've ever been in when I just wanted to be single. And the reason why that is because when you want to be single and like that's where your head's at and you find a way to enjoy being single, you're not going to settle. Like you're going to only date said person if they actually are like good for you, because you're not going to, when you want to be single, like you'd rather be single anyway. So it's like, you don't feel like you have anything to lose. So your standards are like higher than normal. And then boom, you get into a great relationship and but then you get in the relationship and then you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I would do without them because I love them so much, but that's fine. It's like that feeling of like depending on them. Not necessarily depending on them, but the feeling of like being like, okay, this person really, really makes my life better. And I like would be very sad if they weren't in it. That comes later and that's normal. But I actually felt guilty. Okay. I felt guilty before for like feeling like I would be really in a bad spot without somebody in my life. Okay. Because I'm somebody who has my spidey senses up and I'm like, okay, if I don't want to need anybody. I don't want to rely on anybody. Ever. That scares the shit out of me, right? But when you're in a relationship, and if it's a good and healthy one, you're going to be like, holy shit, if this wasn't a part of my life, I would be really sad. Because this person really does bring so much joy and like light into my life that like if they weren't there, I would be sad. And then, you know, but for me, that's a hard thing to admit to myself. To be like, Emma, you love this person a lot and you want them to be in your life for a long time. And you have to just deal with that. But for me, that feels like a weakness. I'm almost like, oh, you are so weak. If you fucking want somebody to be in your life for a long time and you're afraid of them having them in your life. Like if, for me, like fearing somebody not being in my life is weakness. But that's not true. I don't know how I just got there and why that came up. Well, I do, but whatever. I know why it came up, but that's kind of unrelated, but still. Oh, this is really interesting. Somebody said, why do I feel like it's almost the end and I can't vision myself in the next 2 years or so? I totally know this feeling. I can't explain to you that. I've never seen that be put into words before, but like I 1,000% feel that. And especially recently. And it's because we're in such a limbo right now where it's like we are just reliving the same day over and over and over and over. And a lot of us have been for 8 months straight with very, very slight differences in day to day. I think that almost shoots down your imagination because you're like, I can't imagine a life that's different than what we're living right now. We've been doing it for almost a year. I can't imagine what the next 2 years are going to look like because it's like impossible to use your imagination anymore because I feel like all of our imaginations are fried. Just know that I think, I don't know this for a fact, so like do not take my word for it, but I find that when I'm in a slight depressive state, my brain tends to think like that, but it does pass. Also, there's so much to look forward to within the next 2 to 10 years. And just because you can't necessarily picture it in your head doesn't mean that it's not going to be great and doesn't mean that it isn't going to exist. Because I know I get anxiety sometimes when I can't imagine the future and I'm like, does this mean I'm going to die? Like, is this the universe telling me that I'm going to die? That's what my anxiety tells me. That's not how it is. I've gone through phases like this thousands of times where I'm like, I can't literally imagine what my life's going to look like in 2 years because I can't. But I think especially right now in the pandemic, it's even worse. So I totally get it, but just know that it's normal and that in 2 years, things are going to be great. Just have hope and don't psych yourself out because you're thinking like that. It's very, very normal, and I'm pretty sure it probably happens to everybody. Somebody said, do you believe in manifesting? You know what? I do, because no matter if it works or not, it's a positive thing. Like, I don't see anything negative that can come from manifesting. But also, I've manifested things before and it not come true and been very bummed out, but then later realized that it was better that way. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about that in a podcast episode, so I'm not going to get into that too heavily. But I do believe in manifesting because I just don't see how it could hurt. How could like sitting in bed and being like, I'm manifesting a healthy, happy relationship for me and like blah, blah, blah. How could that, or like I'm manifesting health and happiness for everybody in my life. Like, how could that hurt anybody? You know what I mean? There's nothing negative that can come from that. And putting good energy into the universe and into yourself is like the best thing you can do. And even if one day fucking a scientist comes out and says manifesting is bullshit, blah, 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 who cares? It feels good. It's comforting. And I think it actually works. But even if it doesn't work, who gives a fuck?